The Trump train came into the White House like a wrecking ball, but in today's breaking story, it hit a wall and was put in reverse literally. And I have all the details on the Dear Leader Donald's humiliating reversal coming up next. I began with the mixed metaphor of Trump train and wrecking ball, but another phrase I keep hearing to describe Trump's calculated chaos is
a campaign of shock and awe.
Once in power, he moved with shock and awe.
Shock and awe versus shock and awful. I think it's pretty awful.
Please have a look at this compilation I've prepared that features pundits and commentators describing what Trump is doing and why he's doing it, because it is important as context. And then I'll share today's trending news.
Donald Trump's allies vowed a campaign of shock and awe as soon as he returned to the Oval Office. And in just a matter of days, he has already followed through on that chaotic promise. In a late-night purge, Trump fired more than a dozen inspectors general in the federal government across multiple departments. A Trump official said the move was an effort by the president to let go of parts of the Biden administration that don't align with the new administration, whatever that means. In a matter of days, Trump has pumped out more than 50 executive orders, many of which seem straight out of a conservative blueprint we've long been warning about on this show. The Heritage Foundation's dystopian Project 2025. Now, according to a new analysis from Time, nearly 2/3 of the executive actions Trump has issued so far actually mirror or partially mirror proposals from the 900-page document, ranging from sweeping deregulation measures to aggressive immigration reform.
To a pretty considerable extent, you can say that part of President Trump's technique is to throw out sort of decoys. I mean, a kind of, how shall I put it, a verbal shock and awe. So people are continuously reacting to what he says and being thrown off balance. Shock and awe versus shock and awful. I think it's pretty awful if that's the question. And it's detrimental to the long-term interests of the United States.
And in this final clip, Joy Reid provides us with some much-needed historical context. Watch as she draws a compelling parallel between modern history's worst villain and our current president. It appears that the latter borrowed heavily from the former's shock and awe playbook.
Once in power, he moved with shock and awe, imprisoning his liberal opposition, abolishing states' rights, and imposing bans on left-wing newspapers. He fueled German public outrage by blaming European Jews for Germany's problems. Notably, he and his Minister of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, launched a massive propaganda campaign that labeled Jews as carriers of deadly diseases and violent terrorists. Defeating the Jews of Europe, who they viewed as subhuman, was a question of good conquering evil, which conditioned millions of Germans to celebrate Hitler and turn a blind eye to his brutality. If that sounds vaguely familiar, that's because it is. Similarities to what happened in Germany and what's happening now in America are just undeniable. History may not repeat verbatim, but it sure does rhyme.
With context set, let's take a look at today's breaking story. One of Donald Trump's recent shock and awe moves was to freeze money to as many as 2,600 federally funded programs in a confusing and panic-inducing memorandum. Panic-inducing because things like meals for low-income students and seniors, housing assistance for veterans, and cancer treatment trials were among the things on the potential chopping block. But in a stunning and very un-Trump-like move today, the White House said, oopsie, we were wrong, and a new memo was issued that read, OMB Memorandum M2513 is rescinded. If you have any questions about implementing the President's executive orders, please contact your agency's central counsel. And here's MSNBC to break it down for us.
What happened?
This is a major turnaround for the Trump White House, rescinding this memo that went out late Monday night that caused all sorts of chaos and confusion, ordering federal government departments and agencies to freeze what could have been hundreds of billions of dollars in federal aid funding while those agencies were ordered to comply with President Trump's new executive orders. Now, in a new memo that I obtained about 45 minutes ago, the OMB has officially rescinded that Monday memo. This comes after enormous pushback from Democrats who argue that this could harm programs that their constituents constituents rely on in red states and blue states. It has sparked some reaction already here on Capitol Hill. The rescission, that is. Senator Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader, says, quote, though the Trump administration failed in this tactic, it's no secret that they will try to find another. And when they do, it will again be Senate Democrats there to call it out, fight back, and defend American families, unquote. That's Chuck Schumer taking some credit for creating the kind of noise and pushback that sparked the White House to rescind this memo. The White House tried a tactic yesterday to simply clarify the original memo, which was vaguely worded. It didn't make clear which programs were and weren't affected in terms of that federal aid freeze. One of the big questions there was Medicaid. The White House was not clear initially whether Medicaid would be part of that freeze. That's 72 million people who had health insurance who could potentially be affected. They issued a clarifying memo yesterday saying that Medicaid was not affected, but still the confusion that this has sparked across the country appeared to be enough for the White House to say simply no need for the federal aid freeze anymore. And the agencies and departments can try to comply with President Trump's executive orders without the more aggressive action of freezing aid. In a way, Chris, this is politically the first win that Democrats have had in the new Trump era. This was something that the Democrats were very united on in terms of pushing back, right in their sweet spot of saying, of trying to convey to voters that they're the party of middle class benefits and using the government to try to protect people who need it.
A couple of thoughts on what you just saw. First, it's great to hear the last thing he said, Democrats got to win. That's because I don't know how often we will hear those words in the 4 years to come. But let's enjoy the moment and hope it means that there are some vulnerabilities in the authoritarian wall that Donald Trump is building. And if Democrats do get enough wins, maybe some Republicans will find the courage to cross over on important issues. And second, I want to revisit Joy Reid's implication that Donald Trump's shock and awe strategy is out of the Adolf Hitler playbook. I have to confess that early in Trump's first term, I did not see it. When people would call Trump Hitler, I would simply dismiss it as the worst insult that can be hurled at a politician. After all, I saw rabid conservatives say the same thing about Obama. And when I saw the word fascism go from a seldom used historical reference to a frequently used descriptor of Trump's approach to the presidency, I rolled my eyes a little bit, thinking that the angriest of critics were simply repeating the word of the day and didn't really understand the meaning of it. In the year 2025, Donald Trump, as powerful as his wrecking ball is, can never inflict the same kind of damage that Adolf Hitler did, but he certainly can admire, study, and apply the same shock and awe, white nationalistic, and dictator-like strategies during his reign of chaos. I get it now.